Okay, this is a video for the hardest hitting earphones that you can buy. And who am I? I'm a basshead. Let's get into this. Okay, this is the Fatfreq Scarlet Mini. I want to take a look at this close up. I sometimes don't do this with sets because you can see other people do reviews, but in this case, because it's a bass-centric set, it's got some properties that are very good and assist it not only in its tuning, but its design is making the overall experience better than it might be if it were simply in a metal shell. This is a Olina, and there's a lot of sets that have shells that are kind of similar to this. Most people this fit well. Some people maybe it didn't, but it's not a short stem set. But when you compare it with something like the Scarlet Mini, it actually is relative to this set, because this set has some balanced armatures and the body itself is kind of blending into the nozzle area, and what that's doing is allowing more deep seat into your ear, which means that more of the area is going to be touching the inside of your ear. And because this is a resin shell, you're going to get a slight vibration that comes with that much elevated bass that you probably wouldn't get with a metal shell, because a metal shell obviously eats, reflects, deadens, really everything. It's one of the good reasons for using metal shells is you don't get that residual chaos that comes with timing issues if something's not tubed, but that's another video. So the materials used in the shell combined with the tuning of this is turning this into an absolute monster, which might not have been the case if they had done anything different than what they did. How much of this was absolutely on purpose, or I'm just finding it to be appealing, I can't say, because I haven't spoken with them about that. And we're going to get into music, but I want to point out something quickly that's relevant as well. This is the Empire Ears Legend X in red, which is a famous basshead set. This is the Singularity by Nitro Acoustics, the 7 Hz Legato, which is an affordable bass lover set, and the Scarlet Mini. The Scarlet Mini is the one in green, and I've got 4 arrows, and I want to point out what the point is. The biggest arrow is on the furthest to the left, and it's around 30 Hz. The fact of the matter is that there's not a lot that exists below 30 Hz. Post-production, a lot of stuff, there's just simply not. There's a lot of artifact, there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of reason that producers remove a lot of stuff just below 20 Hertz, period. Some music has info there, but it's minimal. Most music doesn't actually have much there. So that being elevated is nice on a graph. Its actual impact on, it definitely doesn't relate to the slam and that vibration that you get. I don't care what anybody says. I come from car audio, home audio, and personal audio. It doesn't matter as much as people maybe say. It's nice on a graph though. We get to the next arrow and we're at 55 Hertz. 55 Hertz is a very, very important frequency range. That being rolled off, like on headphones or something, is absolutely can't be done. There's a lot of stuff that's going on there. There's a lot of large dynamic drivers that are made by JL Audio, Digital Designs, and their resonant frequency is around this area. Tuned ports or boxes are tuned to be optimized for the driver that is within them. You're kind of pairing them together. 55 Hertz is a very, very important frequency range, and it also does have a lot to do with the sense of energy and force that you get with any low frequency driver. So 55 Hertz is where stuff becomes important. You notice that all of these sets are gliding. None of them are just dropping at 100 or 150 Hertz and then flat mids, because that doesn't work when it comes to drum kit. All of it, toms, snares, kick drum, it all gets impacted when you do a tuck. A glide, on the other hand, can give you elevated bass, and it can maybe get into the mid frequency and the fundamentals of a lot of stuff that can't really be elevated too much without doing some damage. The next place I want to talk about is 200 Hertz, and you notice that all of these sets are doing the same thing. They're kind of gliding, and they're not really different from each other, with the Empire Ears being just a little bit more than the Scarlet Mini at 200 Hertz. When you get to 200 Hertz, you are definitely starting to impact male vocals for sure, sometimes female vocals. You can add kind of a husk. That, and you are also taking the rhythm section and parts of it, and maybe overemphasizing it how it relates to the rest of the mix. It will start to interfere with the quality of the mid frequencies, because there's a lot of fundamental areas of a lot of instruments that exist there. The interactive frequency response graph is a great tool that's been around for a long time. It's in my Squig link if you want to go check it out. As we get to 300 hertz, it's the same as 200, but it becomes more important. Elevating at 300 hertz is definitely impacting stuff, and it's going to be reflected in the replay. The Empire EOS Legend X, the Scarlet Mini, the Singularity, the Legato all have limitations when it comes to genre. None of them would be ideal for classical music. They all have less than optimum replay of female vocals, unless that's kind of your thing, but 300 hertz becomes, and then beyond that is kind of ridiculous. All of these sets are similar in that region, except the Scarlet Mini has just more bass overall, and it's got more slam and impact. But I wanted to show that because this glide type of profile that all these sets exhibit is really the ideal, because your ear picks up on sudden changes, whether it's a boost or a cut. That's what your ear picks up on. These gradual glides from super high to less super high aren't really that much of a problem. Where they start to terminate in the mid-range actually is where problems can start out. We'll go ahead and move on from that, and we'll start talking about some music. Okay, let's start on the left side, and we'll start with bass. Bass is obviously what this is built for. So stuff that is absolutely right in front of me right now, stuff like Baby D, stuff like Lil Wayne, 6 foot, 7 foot, which I've got way down here, way down here. Sounds absolutely perfect. Let's stop around Easy because we could just scroll forever. Lil Wayne, 6 foot, 7 foot sounds amazing. A Millie sounds awesome. Big Pimpin' by Jay-Z is another thing that I listened to that I thought sounded amazing. So hip-hop gets nailed by this. You would gather and imagine that by the frequency response. In fact, listening to it, it hammers. It absolutely hammers. Another low-frequency event that I cite a lot would be Bonham's kick drum. And that also sounds like something that was produced to be what the peers at the time that reviewed it in Parade Magazine and Rolling Stone said it's an authoritative, it's an amazing step into the spotlight by Bonham. He took over the whole thing when the levee breaks off of the fourth release by Led Zeppelin. It does sound like that. Listening to other tracks by Led Zeppelin, just overall, the rhythm section, John Paul Jones and Bonham are emphasized, but they really don't get in the way of Robert Plant much. So actually, this is obviously great for the hip-hop and reggae and R&B. So Casey and JoJo, All My Life, I listened to that. I thought that sounded great. Totally fine. There's absolutely no problem with that. So the bass is what I would expect. Quite elevated, quite impactful, and doing a little bit more in my library than I would first expect just by looking at the graph. So I'll leave that there when it comes to bass, because we're going to talk more when we get into the mids. Okay, let's talk about the mids. This is the most sensitive region when you lift the bass that much. So let's get down to something like Alice in Chains, something with Lane Staley, and similar like that. When you elevate the bass this much, you're going to push the rhythm section forward. That means the bassist and the drum kit, all of the drum kit, and male vocals are going to be maybe husked up a little bit. I found in listening to all of things that I could think of in the male library, like I just mentioned with Robert Plant, male vocals are really not bothered. There's a little bit of husk to it. Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler's vocals sound a little bit husked up, but I'm actually fine with that, and I kind of prefer it because it sounds more authentic to me, so I'm not sensitive to that at all. When we talk about also Chris Cornell, he did a cover on Sirius XM, I think, of Prince's song that he wrote for Sinead O'Connor, I believe, which was Nothing Compares to You. Sounds absolutely fantastic on Scarlet Mini. So a good portion of my rock library and my hip-hop library sound amazing when they're set. When you start to get into female vocals, it becomes what you would expect, as we mentioned by looking at the graph. When you start to lift 200 and 300 hertz up, you start to put that husk on female vocals, and there's a little bit less flexibility for that sounding normal. And for people that prefer female bass libraries, there's much less. I don't think that they want that. That's like me being a bass lover and having a very lean bass or something that's rolled off. I'm not into that. So people that are really, they want that flat, clean mids for their female bass library, this obviously wouldn't be the set for you. The graph would have indicated that to you. I'll confirm that for you. Stuff like Heart, Madonna, other stuff like that, I think it sounds It sounds okay. It's not bothering me that much. I love bass, that's why, but I can see people who are really into female vocals that it would be not the set that they would go for. So, mids. They are relatively clean, but they're tilted up, and fundamentals are being boosted, and it's obvious to the ear, and it's most obvious with female vocals. So, I think the people that are big fans of something like the Variation probably wouldn't be a fan of something like this. So that's the mids. Okay, let's talk about the treble, stuff like cymbal strikes and pianos and vocal harmonics and all the stuff that goes on up there. This is a set that sounds better than the Maestro Mini. Clearly, to my ear, it sounds much better. Listening to Vivaldi right here, Vivaldi, Verdi, Tchaikovsky, the treble sounds fine. There's no in-my-face, over-the-top harmonics that just sound unnaturally boosted relative to the ear gain region, which really shows its face and is something that I can sometimes be in the mood for, but not for a regular listen. Vivaldi sounds normal. Stuff like classical music is going to be impacted by that extremely elevated low end. So the treble is fine, but you're going to be constantly reminded of just how much low frequency was going on, because a full orchestra has lots of instruments that are down in the low end, and it's going to dominate. So treble sounds good. Focus being stolen by the low end. So people using this for classical music, I predict no. But I think that was easy to see coming. I'm going to move right into res. Res is what I talk about when I say something like, there's no way I can scroll all the way down there, can I? Let's just leave it right here. Paid in full, Eric P. and Rakim. The ability to perceive subtle nuances within music that I know exist, but I have resigned myself subconsciously to not catching it a lot of the time because of average gear. That's what resolution is to me. This set is good. I can pick up, listening to Randy Rhoads D, which you're looking at somebody doing an exercise of that exact track. That squeaking sound with the finger sliding up the string on the fretboard on the Maestro Mini clearly sounded annoying. And on this set, it sounded pretty good, actually, considering that there's a lot of low end going on. Remember, low end frequency is going to interrupt you when there's actually stuff there. When it's not being mixed in there and there's not an instrument there, it's not going to be a problem. If there's nothing going on there, you're not going to hear it, as with other parts of the frequency response. So I thought that the finger slide on the fretboard, Randy Rhoads, and other subtle nuances that I was looking for were decent, average. Compared to the Maestro Mini, I thought that this sounded better. I think that this has more bass. It hits harder. I think it's got better mids than that set, because the overall presentation is balanced by a treble that is more appealing and natural to me than the Maestro Mini, which sounded abrasive, and was clearly designed for bass heads only. I think the Scarlet Mini could be pulled into the rock genre pretty easily until you get into a lot of female vocals, which might be your library. For me, it's not. Most of my library, just for some reason, is mostly male dominated, so I don't find it to be that much of a issue. Awesome set. If you're into bass, it's an absolute automatic rec. If you want one set that you can just open up, put it in your ear, not mess with EQ, not do anything to it, not need anything, this would be the set that I would recommend. It's probably endgame for bass heads, for people that want to listen to stuff like I talk about a lot. Big Boy Kill Jill, 6 foot 7 foot by Lil Wayne, or A Milli by Lil Wayne, or Holler If You Hear Me by Two. A lot of the stuff that I talk about, if that's a big part of your library, then this would be an automatic rec. Fat Frequency is amazing. For many, many years, bass heads were kind of marginalized within the hobby, which is kind of crazy because it's a fundamental part of any setup, whether it's a home system or a car system. The low frequency has to be there. Remember, audiophile is very strict. It is high fidelity replay, and high fidelity is faithful reproduction. These are the actual literal definitions. Anything other than that is not audiophile. So if you've got rolled bass, or it's hard to catch the bassist, or it sounds slightly unnatural, that's not any more audiophile than if I want to boost the bass more than you might like. So either one is not audiophile. You and your I'm okay with slightly rolled bass, and me with my give me some more. Neither one of those is audiophile. So there's that. This company comes along and has a branch of, mostly of what they sell is to musicians. that are self-monitoring or monitoring with the group, and they're listening to, they make a lot of neutral stuff. They have this line, the Maestro series, which is V-shaped, and they're just killing it. The Grand Maestro is an audiophile or a Basshead set. The SE is really kind of a Basshead / audiophile because of the number of drivers and the overall tuning. This set has a treble that's not that unlike the Maestro SE. And this is another member of that family, the Maestro family, I believe. And it's just, thank God this company came along. I think this was way too long, but I don't care. I'm going to start making a thumbnail now and process this video. Highly recommended. Absolutely glad that they waited. It came out fantastic. You're only as good as your latest release, and that's good for Fat Frequency because their latest release is a killer. Nice job. Good job, you guys. And I'm out.